The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University. Welcome to this week's Art Beat on Classical 105.7 KLZK Lubbock, where we take Lubbock's pulse on theater, music, and visual arts each week. I'm Peter Martins, and I am really thrilled to be here today with Jaston Williams, who's no stranger to Lubbock or the Texas Tech campus. He's in town involved with a new production called The Nerve of Minerva, and we're going to just chat about that a little bit here today. So, Jaston, I think a lot of our audience will know you associated with the word tuna and the town by that name. That you've been living and expanding that universe for a couple decades here, but now you're here with a new production, and I'd love to understand some of the genesis of that, and also maybe speak to the fact that this will be the world premiere of this production at Texas Tech.
Yes, it will. I'm very proud of that. My father and mother graduated from Tech in 1929, and so our connections here, our roots are deep around here. And although I went away, I always come back. And it's beautiful today. I looked for a little dust and I couldn't find any. I was so pleased. Although actually, if there's no dust storms at a certain point, I get kind of lonely for them.
It's like snowbirds missing the snow, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the show is called The Nerve of Minerva, and I'll ask you about maybe Minerva in a little bit if we have time. But it's cast as a barnyard musical satire.
Yes, it is.
And I imagine that you could unpack maybe all of those terms a little bit for us to set the stage for the show.
Well, the inspiration for this show, our inspirations are Mad Magazine and the original Looney Tunes cartoons. I don't think there's any better comedy or satire than those. I love the Looney Tunes cartoons because it would go to violence, premeditated violence, and no one ever died. They got roughed up real bad and they got their feathers blown off and all of that, but they always came back. And you couldn't finish off Daffy Duck. But originally, I got in touch with Joe Sears, who was the other half of Greater Tuna, and I said, maybe we ought to write a children's show. Maybe we should write a children's show and get what we call in the business mailbox money. And theaters do it everywhere, and you write the show and then you go to the mailbox. It's a wonderful way to make a living. But then we wrote the first song, and I called him. I said, "This isn't for children anymore." I said, "We should have known better." But yeah, it's a barnyard musical, but it's a social satire of your basic humanity, and all of the ups and downs and foibles and mistakes and recoveries, that we make as human beings. But it's also like Looney Tunes cartoons. It's in the form of an animal, and so we got chickens and ducks, and we've got a vicious trio of villains. We've got a rat and a fox and a weasel, who has a wonderful. Well, she's manic depressive. It's a manic depressive weasel, yeah, and she's got a number called "Being Weaselly Doesn't Come Easily," and nice. But it's I'm real proud of the show, and I'm real proud that Tech is doing it.
So you mentioned Joe Sears a little while ago, longtime friend and collaborator, I know. Tell us about Alan Robertson, who is maybe your first time collaborating with him?
It is. It's my first time collaborating with him as a writer. I've been in shows where he's been the musical director. Alan Robinson's a genius, and I don't use that term lightly. He blows the mind, and I could send him lyrics, or I could just send him the title of a song, and he would come back with the lyrics in a couple of hours. Or I decided, if you want to write the lyrics, don't give him the title, just send him the lyrics, because he'll beat you to it. But he's brilliant, and he is, when you've been in show business as long as I have, from the age of 20, I've worked with kings and queens and the scum of the earth. It's, and everything in between. Once in a while, you get to work with someone who has the kind of genius that Alan has, and is a good person. And he's from up in this part of the world. He went to Abilene Christian, for his undergrad stuff years ago. But he is the most delightful person to work with. And he and Joe and I are having a ball. We are just, we're just having a ball putting this thing together.
Wonderful. I imagine you three maybe, or at least the two of you, had some commerce down at the Zach Theater in Austin. You spent some time down there?
Yeah. I've done a number of shows at Zach over the years, and have I've done shows at Zach that changed my life. I did Laramie Project at Zach many years ago, and by the time I was through with that show, I realized I wanted to adopt a child. I mean, Zach does some amazingly good theater, but then I'd done musicals of all things at Zach, and I'm not really a singer. But Alan made me confident enough to pull it off. And Zach is a great regional theater. There's a lot going on. And we workshopped this production at Zach before we brought it here to Tech. Okay. So we heard the music, we heard everything. It gave us a reason to keep going.
Nice. Now, there was some element of kind of pre-gaming this show at Tech this past summer. Is that correct?
Yes, we did a workshop with the Wild Wind Project, which they do here in the theater department every summer. And we had 2 weeks to work on the script and to hear the music and to see Tech students take on the roles. And several of those students are now cast in this major production. But yeah, I was in Lubbock for several weeks in the summer putting it together, and it was a delight. And I love working with students. I was watching them last night. I just got to town. I hadn't seen a rehearsal yet. And I thought, they're so young. They're so young, and they're so excited, and they haven't been dragged through the mud of the world of the arts yet, But it was really, really encouraging to watch them. And we actually had an incident. We have a young man that's in the show. I only met him last night. And he was running late. He had been in a horrible automobile accident a couple of days ago, and in which people lost their lives, and on no fault of his own. And he luckily got out with very little damage. And so I set him in the corner and said, "You don't have to do this. If you need to go home and rest or whatever." And he said, "No, I want to do it." And then he did a stand-up rehearsal. It was amazing to watch him work. And I thought, we've always said that theater is healing. When done right and in the right circumstances, it will heal you. But watching him last night, it gave me hope. It gave me hope. And, I've got older actors that I work with. They get an ingrown toenail and they're out for 2 weeks, So, but it was, that was a very moving experience last night.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, sorry to hear that it comes from some tragic events.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does, yeah.
Well, let me circle back to the title then for a moment. I mean, obviously there's a convenient rhyme involved, but yes. I'm wondering if the, we think of Minerva, Roman goddess of wisdom, and maybe strategic warfare. Yeah. Does that play into the title character at all? Not at all.
Not at all. Not for a second. No, Minerva is a peahen. She's manic depressive too. Actually, she's much worse off than the weasel, and because she wants to be the first peahen to sing on key, And if you've ever heard peahens or peacocks, they're not on key. And the peahens, not only are they not on key, but they're drab. It's the males that have all the feathers. And so she's dealing with serious mental crisis and wants to sing. And there's a whole barnyard talent show, singing sows and roosters and ducks and all of that. And they won't even let her. They won't even give her a shot. They're cold and cruel. It's a Parker Posey movie, if you can imagine.
Right.
And so Minerva is the title character, and she's the one that we care about. She's thrown in the midst of all of this angst. And then you've got the villains, the three villains outside that are just desperate to get inside and eat all the chickens and the eggs. So there's that kind of, and again, it sounds like just some goofy little children's play, but it's dealing with the realities of our world and the humor involved.
Yeah, you mentioned Looney Tunes cartoons early on, and one of the reasons that, to me, they age as well as they do, the ones that do age well, is that there was something in those for the adults as well. It wasn't
Absolutely.
just for the children.
It played on two levels. It played on a level for children, and then they'd throw those statements in. There would always be something in the cartoon. Every once in a while, someone would say, "Open the door, Richard. That's what it's there for." And I thought, Richard was a real idiot that someone dealt with. But they would always bring Richard back up. And I have a funny story about the guys who wrote those. They were crazy. They were a wild bunch. And, of course, worked for Warner Brothers. And Jack Warner, who ran the place and was just kind of a monster anyway, he was so embarrassed by them that he put them way on the back of the lot where no one was around. And they were in like this 3-story building with an interior stairway. And they would be up there doing God knows what, except, writing cartoons. So he started sending this guy to catch them. Some idiot, gopher, to catch him. So they unscrewed a light bulb and removed one step. And every time he would come to catch him, he would trip on the step and they would hear him. And when he opened the door, they're all working.
Wow, I only know a little bit about Carl Stalling, part of that. I don't know if he was the original part of that group or was brought in for the music after the fact, but he seemed like quite a character as well.
Oh, yeah, and then throw Mel Blanc in, who could do any voice in the world. And the thing that was so funny about their voices, they were humor, but there was some little twist. There was some slight twist that kept it as a cartoon, but they were dealing with human emotions. My favorite was Foghorn Leghorn, the way he would just grab that dog by the tail and whack him with the board. Again, premeditated violence. Right. Yeah. And no regret. Right. Never regret.
So you mentioned voices a couple of times here, and it's interesting to me to stretch these students' performance abilities if they have to emulate the singing of a sow or the attempts of whatever other animal to vocalize. Is that part of the script? Is that something they're going to have special coaching in?
They are having special coaching in it, and again, when they are represented as animals, but they're also human beings. We have one number with the hens that is right out of the Andrews Sisters, and they just break into 4-part harmonies, and it's hysterical. It's so again it varies. It varies, and the sow is. I love the sow. She's love hungry.
Well, I'm sure these students will morph into their roles as we go forward.
They already are. They are.
Oh, great. Yeah. Great to hear. Well, thank you so much for talking with us here today. The show opens on April 3rd and runs through April 13th at the Machen Theater on the Texas Tech campus.
That's right.
And we hope that you'll join us for some of those performances.
I will be here. I will be here for all of them.
Wonderful. Okay.
I will be here for all of them. Yeah. I'll be living in Lubbock this spring. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to our guest here, Jaston Williams, in the studio, and we look forward to seeing all of you in the audience at the Nerve of Minerva coming to Texas Tech starting April 3rd.
It's going to be crazy.
Thanks much.
Thank you.
The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University.